We have the following board members with us today: Vice Chair Giraldo,
Morning.
Commissioner Okoye,
Good morning.
and I am Chairman Barnes. We will now move forward to the business at hand. Please note that the deadline for all participation, pre-registration, and all submission of materials and exhibits is due 12 noon on Tuesday before the planning board meeting. Please note that as of October 2nd, walk-in speaking sign-ups is no longer permitted. Now we will move on with today's agenda. The order of cases for today's meetings is as follows. Item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. First item on the agenda is item 1, Commissioner's item, announcement of the appointment of Commissioner Billy Okoye to the Audit Committee. And item B, resolution of appreciation for Ann Lewis. And before I move on, I want to read some good things about Miss Ann Lewis. I don't see her in attendance, but I hope that she is listening. Mm-hmm. Ann Lewis, 30 years of service in various administrative roles in the Planning Department, Information Management, and Neighborhood Revitalization Divisions, including as supervisor of 4 administrative staff members while at Neighborhood Revitalization. She also worked with the Prince George's County Redevelopment Authority for 2 years and returned to the commission to join the planning board. She provided general administrative service to the chairman's office. She is an administrative gatekeeper with strong customer service skills. She was a key point of contact and provides administrative assistance to the planning board commissioners. She monitors and performance recognition awards and process awards nominations, assists with human resources tasks for the office, coordinated with facility managers and property management issues on behalf of the office, assists with planning and organizing of team building activities, and assisted budget coordinators and graduate internship programs for several years. And I must just say, during my time here, Ms. Lewis has been a vital part of my office, a confidant and a good person. And after 30 years of service, we wish her much success and much luck as she moves forward. So if you all could please give her a round of applause. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, with a pleasure. It's a pleasure that makes it difficult because I hate to see Ann leave. She was a hard worker, is a hard worker, and has been instrumental in keeping the office of the planning board together, particularly with the commissioners, and there she is, Ms. Lewis. So with that said, I'm going to miss her tremendously. She's always been helpful to me personally on the commission. If I'm missing anything, if I need any assistance with anything, Ms. Lewis is the first to jump to her feet and say, how can I help? So with that, I move that we adopt the resolution.
And I'm going to second that. But before I do that, I'd like to thank Ms. Ann for welcoming me to the commission. I'm really going to miss you. Everybody has really welcomed me, but she really stood out. She calls me just to see where my book is going to be delivered, and she's really, really helped me. So I'm really going to miss you, but I'm sure that wherever you're going, you get some good rest. I second that motion.
It's been properly moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I will also call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
Aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Before I move on, I'd like to take a picture with Miss Ann with our commissioners up front. All right, but let me say this since you're here. This is a phenomenal young lady. After 30 years of service, once again, she will be missed. She is a treasure to this commission. This is someone that has put a lot of time, energy into the success of this planning board and ensuring that we run as smoothly as we possibly can. I know she has big plans for the future. She's going to do some amazing things, and we wish her well. So once again, while she's here, you all can give her a round. The next item on the agenda is item number 2, draft minutes of December 11th, 2025 minutes. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from the December 11th meeting.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call a roll. Vice Chair Giraldo,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye, and I vote aye as well. The next item on the agenda is item 3B, an executive session. The following is my closing statement. Pursuant to the general provision of articles of the Annotated Code of Maryland, 3-305, subsection B, and 3, a closed session is proposed to discuss a personnel matter concerning an appointed position in the planning department and the acquisition of real estate for the public purpose and matters related thereto, and for the purpose of protecting the commission negotiating position. Is there a motion?
Move to go into executive session.
I second. It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye, I vote aye as well. We will now go into a closed session. Order. We will now reconvene the open session following the executive meetings. We will move forward with the consent agenda item. Is there a motion, or is there anyone who wishes to oppose the staff recommendation on the consent agenda item? And if not, is there a motion?
There being no one speaking, is there any? Mr. Chair, after consideration of the record for items 4B, 4D, and 4E, and 4F, I move adoption of the staff findings and approve of the items on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendations of staff.
Chair, I second the motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Giraldo and second by Commissioner Okoye. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye, and I vote aye as well. The regular agenda items, we will now move into the regular agenda items. The first item on the agenda is item 5, preliminary plan of subdivision 4-22067, Morton's Farm. We will now hear from our favorite Miss Van Dusen.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Mahsa Vatandus with the subdivision section. Item number 5 on the agenda today is the preliminary plan of subdivision for Morton Farm, case number 4-22067. The subject project proposes 140 lots and 5 parcels for residential development consisting of 140 single-family detached dwelling units. In the letter dated November 24, 2025, the applicant requested a continuance of this case to March 5th, 2026. This continuance will allow additional time for the applicant to conduct community outreach and to take all reasonable steps to communicate with nearby residents and organizations in order to adequately provide information regarding the proposed development. If the continuance is granted, additional posting will not be required. The notices of public hearing signs for this application were posted on the subject site on November 18, 2025. This concludes the staff's presentation. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the planning board for Ms. Van Dusen?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Seeing none, I believe that, no, there are two signed up to speak in opposition. Is Emily Cavan here? Come on up.
Mr. Chair. Because this is only a request for continuance, the only scope of public testimony would be to the continuance of the matter. We can't discuss the substantive project. So that's the limit of what you'd be speaking to if you're opposed to continuing this to March 5th.
Okay.
Are you opposing to continuous to March 5th?
Can you explain what continuing to March 5th means?
Maybe you want to explain that?
Absolutely. So the applicant has asked for more time to address what were the particular issues that they wanted to address. They wanted to spend more opportunity for community outreach, and so the case is being continued to March 5th. That's the request.
So I would like to oppose the method at which that it's being continued and the suggestion that there shouldn't be here signs posted or outreach done. So I guess, yes, I would like to oppose it.
Well, I just would advise the chair that pursuant to the board's regulations, I think it's 6.9, the board is allowed to continue hearings. So it is within their discretion to do so.
Okay, but am I allowed to oppose?
Yeah, so let me understand. So you're opposing them not doing continuous outreach to the public?
Well, I can read what I said, or I can just try to summarize it. But I signed up to be a person of record in November on this case. And yesterday, I received a phone call telling me about the continuance happening rather than the hearing happening. And that doesn't seem like a very genuine attempt at public outreach. I have multiple sclerosis, and in order to attend this hearing, I had to rent an Airbnb last night so that I could be here on time to speak on behalf of my community, and it doesn't seem like a genuine attempt at community outreach to call me yesterday and say that. And to add to the point.
Please say no more. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Okay. My name is Emily Canavan. I'm speaking for myself and as the president and representative for the Amp Creeks Council. That's the Accokeek, Mattawa, and Piscataway Creeks Council. I apologize that I'm not better prepared, but we're doing the best we can within a system that is not making a good faith effort to include us and our community in decisions that will be changing our lives on a daily basis. As a concerned citizen, I tried to organize a carpool to this hearing. Driving from Accokeek to Largo during rush hour the week before Christmas is no joke, and it's a lot to ask working people to show up at 10 a.m. on a weekday the week before Christmas, so I wanted to make it easier. I signed up to be a person of record in November. I was not told about this continuance. When I found out about it, I tried calling. I called 6 times on December 15th before I reached a person who was not aware of this change. So why was no one notified of this? As I stated, I have multiple sclerosis. I have to plan my days and energy very carefully. This change is offensive and disrespectful decision that cost me time, energy, and money that I cannot get back. I had another meeting last night and so had to rent a space to make sure I could get here in time for the hearing. So imagine my surprise when I received a call yesterday telling me this. to add insult to injury, this continuance that's supposed to be about community outreach specifically states that no signs will have to be posted or outreach will have to be done before that hearing. So I would request that that be taken out and that those things must be done. Last night, there was a meeting of the Ackekeek Development Review Commission that was added about 48 hours ago. And even though it was not publicized at all, it was very well attended. And the community had a lot to say. So I really hope that you all take seriously the fact that people are just learning about this and they have things to say. Yeah. So if transparency and public participation are our shared goals, please make it a requirement of the continuance. The developer put up hearing signs and publicize the new hearing date extensively and contact every person of record who has signed up in writing. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Emily?
I have none, no.
Seeing none. Thank you so much. I believe there was one other, Catherine Lucas. Seeing that she's not here, is there a motion?
Chair, I move that we continue preliminary plan of subdivision 4-22067 and grant a continuance to March 5th, 2026. And I would note that the letter from council or the staff report mentions that the purpose of the continuance is for, in fact, additional community outreach.
I'll second that motion.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye,
Vote aye.
and I vote aye as well. The next item on the agenda is item 6, zoning map amendment ZMA-2024-004, The Grove at Hyde Landing. We will now hear from staff.
Good morning, Chairman Barnes and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Ellen Shadle with the zoning section. Item number 6 is zoning map amendment, The Grove at Hyde Landing, under case number ZMA-2024-004. This zoning map amendment requests a reclassification from a residential estate zone to a residential single-family planned development zone. Zoning map amendment requests for planned development zoning are distinct from traditional zoning map amendment requests in that planning development zoning is not subject to proving a change or mistake in the current zoning. Planned development zoning map amendments require a commitment of public benefit features to be provided by the applicant and will be addressed as part of this presentation. Public benefit features in a planned development zone are those that are accepted as over and above base zone requirements and benefit the surrounding neighborhood or the public in general to a significantly greater extent than would likely result from the development of the site under a base zone. As a matter of housekeeping, prior to the December 16th noon deadline, the applicant submitted 11 exhibits consisting of 6 witness resumes, 1 community outreach exhibit, 3 letters of support, and the applicant's revised conditions exhibit that outlines the revised conditions proposed by the applicant, which are minor, are for clarification purposes, and in which staff are in agreement. The subject property is located at 3801 Steed Road, approximately 3,330 feet northwest of the intersection of Maryland Route 223 Piscataway Road and Steed Road. It is a single parcel of approximately 126 acres of land. The applicant requests a planned development zoning that would permit the future construction of approximately 300 residential dwellings, including single-family attached and single-family detached units, along with on-site active and passive recreational areas, paths, and bikeways. Future residential uses will be situated within the central existing non-forested portion of the property, with areas of environmentally sensitive zones reserved for open space. Next slide, please. As shown on the map, The subject property is located in Council District 9 and Planning Area 81B. Next slide, please. This slide shows the subject property's frontage along Steed Road, opposite to Steed's Glen subdivision development, along with its relationship to Piscataway Road and surrounding residential areas. Next slide, please. The subject property is currently zoned Residential Estate RE. It is surrounded by areas also zoned RE in the bright yellow-green areas, along with reserved open space zoned areas in green, rural residential zones in the light tan to its north, west, and east, and a residential planned development zone to its south. Next slide, please. The subject property is located within aviation policy areas that provide special regulations regarding height and use for development, which could be affected by operations of Potomac Airfield Airport. The intended future development is within the height and use regulations and will not be impacted by the aviation policy areas that are shown on this slide. Next slide, please. This slide shows the subject property's topography and that of the surrounding area. Next slide, please. This slide shows the location of the master plan rights-of-way of Collector Roads, Steed Road, and Piscataway Road in the green. Next slide, please. The bird's eye view shows that a majority of woodland and existing environmental site features will be maintained. Next slide, please. Referencing the legend included, the basic plan presents the future residential portions of the development as pods A, B, and C. Pod A is to consist of single-family attached dwellings. Pods B and C are single-family detached, with all spaces and all pods including dedicated open space and recreational areas. It also indicates the proposed circulation for motor vehicles and zoning of parcels in the surrounding subject area to the subject property. Next slide, please. This slide provides context for the intended sequence of development and shows the relationship between the pods identified in the basic plan and the established phases of construction. Development of the Grove at Hyde Landing is to commence with the construction of Pod B with single-family detached dwellings. Next slide, please. Referencing the map legend, this slide demonstrates the connectivity of motor vehicle travel and routes for pedestrians, cyclists, and other active transportation modes. Next slide, please. Referencing the map legend, the areas of natural features, active recreation, passive recreation, and public access easements, are depicted with numbers 1 through 4 respectively. The applicant's required level of service for parks and recreation will be analyzed at the time of preliminary plan of subdivision. As a public benefit feature, the applicant has committed a minimum of $150,000 in off-site improvements to Cosca Regional Park Playground, for which the applicant will work in coordination with the Parks Department in identifying and constructing. Next slide, please. The proposed change to the residential plan development zone would normally require 20% in woodland conservation equal to 20.19 acres of the subject property. As a public benefit feature, the applicant is committed to an additional approximately 5 acres over and above the required residential plan development zone threshold on site. If the property was developed by right with the residential estate zoning designation, 5% of the property area would be required as mandatory parkland dedication equal to 6.3 acres of the subject property. As a public benefit feature with the requested residential plan development zone, the applicant is providing an additional 45 acres of stream valley dedication. The total stream valley dedication, including the 6.3 acres of parkland dedication, will amount to over 52 acres towards the Tinkers Creek Stream Valley Park. The development of the Grove at Hyde Landing will provide 3,500 linear feet of trail to be constructed for the Tinkers Creek Master Plan Trail System, as recommended by the Master Plan of Transportation for the subject property. As a public benefit feature, the applicant is proposing an additional 1,600 linear feet of trail system that will be located through the expanded Tinkers Creek Stream Valley Park to support all types of non-vehicular modal uses. Next slide, please. The image on the left shows an overview of the applicant's proposed road improvements. The applicant is subject to standard frontage improvements along Steed Road, including an 80-foot right-of-way and a 10-foot side path and striped bicycle lane, and contribution into the Capital Improvement Plan Fund. As a public benefit feature, the image on the right shows the applicant's commitment to construct an additional travel lane of 1,500 linear feet that is situated before the northern point of the property frontage and meets the existing southeast travel lane beyond the subject site's frontage. Next slide, please. The image on the right indicates the widening of Steed Bridge. The image on the left provides a supplemental depiction of the expanded travel lane. As a public benefit feature, the applicant has committed to constructing the widening of Steed Road Bridge to 59 feet. The cost to widen the existing Steed Road Bridge and widen Steed Road between the property frontage and existing travel lane with the additional travel lane is estimated at $1.8 million. This provides immediate improvements and exceeds the base requirement of the Capital Improvement Plan contribution. Next slide, please. Based on evaluation and analysis, zoning staff recommend that the planning board adopt the findings of this report and approve zoning map amendment ZMA-2024-004 for the Grove at Hyde Landing, subject to the recommended conditions within the technical staff report and the revisions proposed by the applicant and agreed upon by staff in the applicant's exhibit. This concludes staff presentation.
Thank you so much. Great job. Are there any questions from the planning board?
Just one, Mr. Chair. So that's applicant's exhibit number 1 with the revised conditions. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing that there are no other questions, we will now hear from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Tedesco. Mr. Tedesco, before you start, David, if you can swear him in.
Since this is not an evidentiary hearing, no swearing is required for this.
I'll tend to tell the truth.
That's all I wanted to hear.
I think it's still morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board. For the record, Matthew Tedesco with the law firm of McNamee Hosey and Greenbelt, here on behalf of the applicant MVR Inc. From MVR, we have Mr. Patrick Donahue, who's the Regional Vice President of Land, here with us this morning. We also have a number of, if needed, expert witnesses in various fields, all of whom have submitted their CVs for this hearing this morning. By introduction, we have Casey Anderson, who's an expert land planner, Charlie Howe is an expert civil engineer, Christine Gillette, who's an expert landscape architect, Steve Allison is an expert arboricultural and wetland systems, Rob Swam, who's an expert environmental scientist and project manager. We also have Alex Ajagas with Rogers Consulting with us. Mr. Mike Lenhart is our expert traffic engineer on the project, and online with us, Ms. Dominique Lockhart from my office, who is our senior land planner. The Grove at Hyde Landing provides for a very unique but coordinated relationship with Hyde Landing to the south. With the same builder and developer and the same development team, these two projects are able to be planned, designed comprehensively, and the RPD zone facilitates the needed flexibility both in zoning and in the public benefits that these projects will offer the community and the county, creating a win-win both for the developer as well as for the county. Like Hyde Landing, which I know the board seems to be familiar with, as you guys approved the preliminary plan of subdivision just 3 months ago on September 11th. The Grove will transform the property into a comprehensively designed community with integral open space and connectivity, allowing placemaking and amenities while respecting existing environmental habitats and creating proportionally scaled lots and homes that provide a variety in the market and seek to address improving prices in the county. I want to thank Ms. Shadle for her review of this application, for her presentation this morning. It was excellent. We have worked exhaustively, I will say, with Ms. Shadle and her staff. I want to thank Mr. Hurlbut, the supervisor of the zoning section. But as indicated in your referrals, for which every referring agency has recommended approval of this application, there has been a tremendous amount of review in this case. There has been a tremendous amount of time, both at your staff level and the applicant's level, meeting together to get to this point this morning. And I just want to publicly thank all of you and your staff for their professionalism in getting us here. We've probably had, I don't know, more than a dozen meetings, probably more than 100 conversations and discussions about this project, because it's unique in the sense that we haven't seen many planned development rezonings. I've been fortunate enough to handle 3 or 4 of them, and at each one we kind of learned something. And I think this case is no exception. And along with the we get a little better. And this case is proof positive of that. We rezoned the Hyde Landing property just to the south. Again, same applicant, same development team, and really set the bar and the standard for what these projects will bring to the community. And in particular, probably the most important thing is actual road improvements in the area. This area of Prince George's County and the Clinton area has been woefully underserved by road improvement projects. And that's what we heard very loud and very clear with all of our public outreach, which there's an exhibit in your folders with respect to the outreach. We try to bisect it a little bit to separate it from Hyde and the Grove at Hyde Landing. However, the overlap is undistinguishable in the sense that we've been out meeting and working for 2 or 3 years. And my client has had this property under contract for about 18 months. So we've transitioned all of our stakeholder meetings as well as all of our outreach over those past 18 months to kind of handle both the Hyde Landing project as well as the Grove at Hyde Landing. And what we heard is what I mentioned at the rezoning hearing for Hyde Landing and what we mentioned at the preliminary plan hearing back in September for Hyde Landing. And what I'm going to mention here today is the community very, very frustrated with the lack of infrastructure improvements in the area. We have an opportunity with the new zoning ordinance to create flexible zoning, floating zoning, comprehensive zoning in the planned development zones. But the give and take is, well, what's the public benefit? And we understood and we committed from the outset to make those road improvements, significant road improvements in the area. And as I'll explain later in my presentation, the fact that these projects are controlled by the same builder and developer, as well as the same development team, they speak to each other and they build upon each other. My presentation this morning, I intend to go over 5 key elements. Implementation Plan 2035, our county's general plan, and the Subregion 5 master plan. The coordinated relationship that I just touched on previously between the Grove and the Hyde Landing projects. How the RPD zoning enables and implements other functional plans in the county. And key highlights of the public benefits proffered by the applicant that Ms. Shadle so eloquently went through just a moment ago. And then 5th and finally, our community outreach in response to some opposition material that you received on Tuesday. Turning to the general plan, the growth policy and land use consistency of this application. Plan 2035 defines established communities as areas appropriate for low to medium density for residential development, where growth should be accommodated in a context-sensitive manner. The proposed application before you in rezoning of this property, similarly to the Hyde Landing property, implements this policy by limiting density to 2.97 dwelling units per net acre, which is below, I want to repeat, below the 3.5 dwelling unit per acre residential low land use recommendation. Indeed, and will hear me say this later, 3.5 dwelling units to the acre would allow up to 441 units on this property. that's still residential low based upon the land use, future land use recommendations. We are only at 300, which would be the ceiling. It may be less by the time we get to the preliminary plan, hopefully not, but could be. And by the time we get to the detailed site plan, the key there is though, well below 3.5, which is considered residential low. It also preserves large areas of open space and environmental resources. And it enhances public services and infrastructure rather than dispersing development elsewhere. Plan 2035 explicitly states that controlling growth through infrastructure availability is a primary growth management tool. The RPD zoning accomplishes this by tying density to mandatory infrastructure and environmental commitments proffered by the applicant in its public benefits package, rather than allowing by right sprawl throughout the county. The growth policy map, as I mentioned, identifies this property for residential low and parks and open space. That's at page 10 of your staff report. The ZMA application before you implements these policies or these components as well. The residential development is generally limited to the cleared areas at a low density scale of only 2.9 units to the net acre. And as Ms. Shadle indicated in the staff report outlines, over 52 acres as a public benefit are preserved and conveyed as permanent public open space to the commission. This dual implementation of housing and plus parkland is exactly how Plan 2035 envisioned the established communities evolving and supports the context sensitivity of the proposed development. Turning to the master plan, the adopted 2013 Subregion 5 master plan. Again, that too recommends residential low land use for the property and future Stream Valley parkland along the Tinkers Creek. The proposed development achieves 2.97 dwelling units per net acre as opposed to the 3.5 that would be recommended. Remains within the master plan's density ranges and retains a significant single-family detached component. One of the other things we heard when we did Hyde Landing, which is a entirely single-family attached development, was we'd like to see more single-family detached. So we have the opportunity here not only, and I'll build upon this as well, to provide additional road improvements in some of the gaps with this project, but we also have the ability to implement single-family detached residential units to provide a greater mix of housing types within the area. The master plan identifies the Tinkers Creek, which is on the north side or plan view north side of the property and kind of bisects the property as well, as a key environmental corridor and recommends expansion of the Stream Valley parks and off-road trail systems. The application directly implements these recommendations by preserving and conveying over 52 acres of Stream Valley land to the commission, completing a continuous green corridor between Hyde Landing and existing parkland to the north, and enabling construction of the Tinkers Creek Stream Valley Trail, a master plan facility. These outcomes exceed what the master plan merely encourages. They actually deliver the plan's vision on the ground. Transportation mobility. Subregion 5 master plan calls for improved pedestrian and bicycle connectivity in the area, roadway improvements along Steed Road, and better connectivity between adjacent subdivisions. Projects advances these goals by constructing a side path along Steed Road, consistent with the countywide master plan transportation, building regional trail connections through the Stream Valley, and delivering a bridge widening and lane improvements that exceed the frontage requirements under base zoning. Turning to the public benefits. Staff report, as well as all your referring documents, as well as applicant statement of justification for its public benefits, which we further incorporate and adopt, evidence and show that they exceed the 27-6 base standards of the RE zone. They are not otherwise required for subdivision approval and can be actually implemented, tangible, and quantifiable. Section 27.4105 requires these elements with respect to the public benefits. The technical staff has reviewed these in great detail, and the public benefits proposed here meet and exceed the criteria. First, and these are not all of them, I'm hitting the ones that staff agreed with. There are some that we proffered that staff felt were not substantial enough to be deemed public benefits. So I'm only going to hit the ones that staff in its analysis determined were substantial enough to be public benefits. The Stream Valley Park dedication, far and beyond mandatory requirements. The base RE zone requirement under the subdivision regulations for mandatory parkland dedication would be approximately 5% of the site, or about 6.3 acres. Under this application, however, over 52 acres of Stream Valley land is dedicated to the commission. Creation of a continuous regional park system linking the Hyde Landing Parkland to the south and the existing Tinkers Creek Stream Valley to the north. This dedication is nearly 8 times the minimum base requirement, preserves environmentally sensitive land in perpetuity, and implements the master plan recommendations for Stream Valley expansion. This level of dedication could not be required under the RE zoning. Second, the trail construction. Under the RE zoning with reduced density limits the ability to construct a master plan trail, will not allow for off-site trail connections or regional trail continuity, nor would it require off-site improvements to the Costco Regional Park. However, under this application, the construction of the Tinkers Creek Stream Valley Trail and master plan facility will be accommodated and implemented. Additional internal connecting pedestrian paths will be provided. Direct linkage between the Grove, Hyde Landing to the south, and the existing commission parkland property to the north will occur. And off-site renovation improvements at Costco Regional Park will also occur. These improvements provide countywide and regional benefits exceeding subdivision level obligations. Third, transportation infrastructure improvements beyond frontage obligations. Under the RE zoning, only standard frontage improvements and adequacy mitigation at the time of the preliminary plan of subdivision based upon a pro rata payment into the capital improvement program without actual road improvements would be required. However, under this application, the Steed Road bridge widening will occur. Extension of a southbound through lane will occur. Construction of roadway improvements identified in the county's capital improvement program will occur, and those are in your slides that Ms. Shada went through with you a moment ago. I want to pause there because I want to just mention when we did Hyde Landing, in our tremendous amount of outreach that we had in the stakeholder group that you all are very familiar with, that we organized and created, many members of the Steeds Glen community, I think some of whom have signed up here this morning, a few in particular were very, very vocal about their ire associated with the gap in between where we were stopping our Steed Road improvements along the Hyde Landing property and then where the Steed Road widens back up as you get closer to Allentown Road. And the concern was the effect that would have of going to a wider street section down back to 2 narrow lanes and then back up to widen, and the effect that would have. We studied that, we looked into it, we recognized that the issues are not the links, the issues are the intersections. We're making a tremendous amount of improvements at the intersection of 223 and Steed. However, we heard that. This property, when it became available, created an opportunity to bridge that gap. It wasn't our idea to widen Steeds Glen the rest of the way. That was asked upon us by the community based upon the improvements that we were making associated with Hyde Landing. To provide those long-term benefits to the surrounding community and the roadway network, we stood up, promised to do it, and have implemented it with this application. As Ms. Shadle indicated, that was a public benefit in excess of $1 million above standard requirements. The enhanced woodland environmental conservation requirements. The proposed application before you requires a commitment of 25% more woodland conservation. Ultimately, what that resulted in, with some back and forth with your staff, was 5 extra acres of woodland conservation on site. Well above, substantially above what otherwise would have been required. Without the RPD zoning, these benefits could not be required. Environmental preservation would be reduced. Infrastructure improvements would be at best delayed and at worst never actually implemented, as adequacy can be found through the payment into the CIP. And functional plans would remain aspirational rather than implemented. However, with this application, density is planned, not accidental. Proffers and benefits are enforceable, and county policies are implemented on the ground. As documented in the staff report, the Grove site is immediately adjacent to the Hyde Landing property. An approved RPD development and shares environmental corridors, planned trail alignments, transportation improvements. Because both properties would be zoned to the RPD zone, the county can require coordinated open space preservation, continuous trail systems, complementary housing and infrastructure investments, and public benefits that function across property lines rather than being fragmented by lot boundaries. This coordinated approach is critical to implementing approved master plans and functional master plans, which are designed to operate cumulatively and not on a parcel by parcel basis. Grove and Hyde Landing together distribute housing growth across a planned area, avoiding sprawl and reducing pressure on rural and resource conservation zones. This is the precise housing strategy contemplated in the Housing Study for All, delivering housing at scale through coordinated planning rather than isolated rezonings that strain infrastructure. Under the RE zoning, development could be dispersed more widely across the site, fragmenting forest cover and stream buffers, with only minimal mandatory parkland dedication. By contrast, this application, while it does increase the density than what would be allowed under the base zoning, allows development to be concentrated, enabling large-scale preservation that directly advances the climate action plan goals related to watershed protection, forest conservation, green infrastructure continuity, climate resilience, and over 52 acres of Stream Valley land permanently preserved and will be conveyed to the commission. The Grove completes the continuous Stream Valley Park system connecting Hyde Landing to existing parkland to the north. Climate Action Plan emphasizes reducing land consumption development patterns by accommodating planned density. Here, sprawl pressure is reduced elsewhere in the county. Vehicle miles traveled are mitigated through proximity and connectivity, and environmental impacts are contained and mitigated rather than dispersed. This is the net climate benefit, even with the additional dwelling units. Before closing, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your indulgence, I would like to just briefly respond to a few points raised in some of the public comments and what you might be likely to hear this morning. Many of the comments reflect general concerns about growth and density, which I appreciate and respect. Those views are very important, but the question before this board is whether this plan development rezoning meets the applicable standards, including plan consistency, compatibility, and public benefits. Your technical staff, your experts, all referring agencies have reviewed this application under those standards and found it to be satisfied. Some comments suggest that this rezoning must meet what we attorneys refer to the change or mistake rule. That's incorrect. Some of the opposition has relied on section 273601, which is not applicable at all in this case. Those standards apply to traditional base zone rezonings, not to the planned development zone. This application was correctly reviewed as a legislative plan development under 27-3602, focusing on the master plan implementation and the public benefits offered. There have also been questions about the engineering and the details of the plans. At the ZMA stage, the county evaluates land use and zoning appropriateness, not final engineered building construction plans. Those details are reviewed and enforced at a later subdivision and site plan stages. There's also comments about the basic plan and boundary surveys not being signed or sealed. That all too is not correct. The basic plan that's in the record was signed and sealed by Mr. Charlie Howe, a licensed engineer, and the boundary plat survey with all appropriate requirements under 27-3602A5B were signed by a licensed land surveyor, both of which are allowed and required by the code. Adequacy, a lot of the comments in the opposition testimony or letters dealt with adequacy, whether it be schools, fire, police, transportation, et cetera. As you all know very, very well, those will be fully vetted and determined at the time of preliminary plan and or certificate of adequacy. We're simply just not there yet. Finally, some have suggested limiting the development to what would otherwise be allowed under the existing RE zone. That in itself would negate the purpose of the RPD zone, which expressly allows flexibility in exchange for public benefits, for which both myself and Ms. Shado have gone through in great detail. While the board has received a wide range of public input, the technical staff and the administrative record demonstrates that this application satisfies the applicable standards for approval and that the issues raised have been fully evaluated and addressed through the plan development process. Turning to the outreach, we did submit an exhibit. I've hit on this a little bit in our presentation. We did submit an exhibit with respect to the outreach associated with this application. But overall, I will tell you and stand before you that, as we mentioned with the Hyde Landing development, we have had 20 to 30 community meetings with respect to these projects over the course spanning back to 2022. We have a website, www.hydelanding.com. That includes both Hyde Landing as well as the Grove for public consumption. While some of the folks that have signed up today and submitted letters are members of the stakeholder group, we were a little surprised to hear that they had some issues, but nevertheless, we are committed to continuing to work with every one of them, especially the folks at Steve Glenn who are right immediately across from this project. We look forward to those opportunities, many of whom we've met at their homes in their basements for hours. And jokingly, some of the colleagues on my team, I said that in one meeting I had to leave because my wife has a rule about me being in women's basements after 9 o'clock. So
We all have that rule.
I kid, but just to say that we've had a tremendous amount of meetings, many of which have lasted hours into the night. But we're not done. Our work's not done. I don't stand before you and claim victory, but we have a lot to do, a lot of communication still left, and we look forward to those opportunities. And I want to thank all of them because not only do we sacrifice our time, but they sacrifice their time. And notwithstanding me reading a lot of the material late last night, somewhat surprised, it also reinforced that we have some more work to do, and we look forward to doing that, and we will do that. But with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I've said a lot. I think I'm going to stop there. I would just close by saying that this board actually doesn't approve this case. Most of the time, the zoning map amendment applications for base zonings, we don't even have hearings on. They're on your consent agenda and they get transmitted right to the council. Planned development zones in the new ordinance determine that because of the public benefit component, the board should have a chance to have a hearing on those. So that's why we're before you. So most of the time, you guys don't even really review zoning map amendments outside of these planned development zones. But I just want to highlight that because you're not actually approving and hopefully not denying either, but not approving this application, just merely making a recommendation. We believe, based upon everything that's been submitted into your binders in this record, based upon the significant amount of review, which has been exhaustive by your staff, that we believe that this rezoning advances Plan 2035's growth and land use framework. It implements Subregion 5 Master Plan's land use, environmental, and transportational goals. It enables housing for all through planned infrastructure supported density and advances the Climate Action Plan by preserving green infrastructure at scale. Most importantly, it does so while delivering public benefits that far and exceed what the RE base zone could ever require. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your indulgence. I will pause there, see if there's any questions. Otherwise, we'll be prepared to respond back with any rebuttal. Thank you so much.
I just had one before I open it up to my colleagues. Simply to say that I understand how big of a project this is and the undertaking that it takes. I think since I gotten here, I've been very clear on my messaging on community outreach. And looking at this, I would agree that there is still more work to do, but I can also contest to the amount of work that has been done and reaching out to the community. I do believe that this is an opportunity to obtain further conversation and dialogue and making the necessary improvements to get a win on both sides. That's what the intent of this conversation is today. Yes, we are not here to so much approve, but we could deny. But for me, it is to open it up to have further conversations so you all can also hear those in oppositions. And hopefully there are things within those oppositions that you can look at to say, we can go back and make some necessary changes. Because at the end of the day, when you look at that community and the size and scope of this project, it is an opportunity to do something special. Since I've been here since July the 8th, it has been my goal, my mission and then that is to turn Prince George's County into a destination. And part of that destination has to reflect the communities in which we live and the communities in which we serve. Part of that is the aesthetics of the homes that we're starting to build in this county and the look and feel that we want to see. But we cannot get there unless we have proper dialogue throughout the community. And I think this process allows for that. I love the fact of who you are, Mr. Tedesco, and you have become one of my favorites. My team tells me that every time your name pops up. But through that process, it is my hope, goal, and desire that I do not see the number of people that wants to testify against the project, simply because that means we're not doing something right as far as reaching out to the community and hearing their needs that they feel that's important enough to come before this board. So with that process, I will definitely ensure that those that have signed up to speak have the opportunity to share their thoughts, their ideas, and in some cases, their displeasures. While with the team that is standing or sitting behind you are taking notes on the things that they can fix and then come back with proper recommendations to make those things happen. Are there any other questions for Mr. Tedesco?
I have none. Thank you.
Well, I do have a request, Mr. Tedesco. I just want to ask that you guys know that I'm new and I like to put names to faces. And that's all I've been doing since I sat on here. I'd like to request that next time when you introduce your team, can they please either stand or raise their hands so we can put faces to these names.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that now if you like, Commissioner. Casey Anderson, who was our land planner. Charlie Howe is our civil engineer. Christine Gillette is our landscape architect. Steve Allison is not here in person. He's online. He's our arboriculturist. Rob Swim is our environmental scientist. Mike Lenhart is our traffic engineer. Patrick Donahue is regional vice president of land for NVR. And Monroe Harrison is also in the back part of the team. I think I got everybody. And Michael German is also here. He's a developer consultant with Holly Ridge. I failed to introduce him. I think that's everybody. And Dominique Lockhart, who's in my office, but she's online. I'll make sure we'll take care of that next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. I believe that there are several who have signed up in opposition. Please note that we're giving them 3 minutes each. The first one is up. It's Emily Canavana. Canavan.
Again,
How are you?
good.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
You start the clock.
My name is Emily Canavan. I am here speaking for myself and as president and representative for the Amp Creeks Council, the Accokeek, Mattawoman, and Piscataway Creeks Council. There are a lot of things that are concerning about this proposed development, but I'm going to focus on Tinker Creek, which is a tributary of Piscataway Creek that your own staff has pointed out repeatedly over the past several decades that has been rated as poor to very poor. In 2021, one of the largest stream restoration projects in Maryland was completed. Over 7 miles of Tinkers Creek and its tributaries were cleaned and their levels were raised to a much, much better environmental standard. And I think that a 100-foot barrier and a few trees to protect this massive project seems laughable, given the level of resources that Prince George's County poured into protecting this creek. It seems counterintuitive to build something like this along the lines. I would also like to say that adding 5 acres over and above the amount of land, it means very little. 5 acres is next to nothing. And giving $150,000 to Costco Park, I don't know how, that's ridiculous. That is nothing. Anyway, the repeated comments about how it could be worse and we should be grateful that this behemoth of impervious surface and traffic causing sprawl could be worse, but it isn't, and we should be grateful. Just because it can be done doesn't mean it should be done, and it's not what the community wants. And to put off something like adequate public facilities conversation until the project is too far along, at which point we'll hear some version of, well, the train has left the station, all of this work has been put into it, we have to make it work, also seems a little bit disingenuous. And lastly, the repeated comments about reaching out to the community, and I just kind of wonder what that means. Does it mean that we listen to the community and reflect their concerns in a meaningful way, or does it mean that we checked off the boxes required, we held the meetings, we put up a website? And I would just really encourage you to think of the people who already live here, the traffic that we struggle with, the state of our roads, to say that we're only going to fix those things now so that people can get more and make more is insulting to those of us who live in the area and deal with the crummy situation as it is. Like, why not fix those things for your current residents?
Canavan, your time is up if you'd like to summarize.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McLean, or Mr. McLean. How you say his first name? Mendelson?
Yes, can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Yes, good morning, members of the board. I welcome the opportunity to speak on behalf of my neighbors here and in the Branch Hill community. I stand in opposition to this amendment because I've listened to the presentation and part of the attorney representing the applicant, and I stand in disagreement, and I've submitted a submission. I made a submission earlier this week, which I would request and ask the board to review before it makes its recommendation going forward with this. But I just want to highlight one thing that was brought to the attention of the board. I think that that this much was made of the idea that this rezoning would serve as a benefit to the community, surrounding community. I strongly disagree with that for the reasons that are outlined in my submission. I think that aside and apart from the density that's being requested in this particular project, when you talk about 300 additional units, given the fact that the adjoining properties are under development as it currently stands, and what that would mean in terms of its impact with regards to the storm drain runoff water, surrounding congestion on the roads, the so-called benefit that's being added or being made much to do about addition made through the roads is no more than what's required under the base plan itself. Your own staff members, if you look to the benefits section of my submission, you will see that a number of the benefits proposed by the applicant are no more than just the standard that would be required under the basic plan. So we're talking about the language in the rezoning requires a superior or a significant increase. I think the wording, the language that's used over what would be normally required. And that doesn't happen under this plan as proposed. I think that when we look to see, and I'm not going into my submission because I think it's pretty well detailed, and I think for your reading pleasure, you will see that it stands on solid footing that more should be done. I've heard proposed the idea here that it will certain additional amendments will be made or certain additions will be made in the future. But I want to read it. I want to see it before you recommend going forward with this. And I think that it's incumbent upon the applicant to provide what's to be done in writing so that we'll all be clear as to whether or not it satisfies the concerns that I've raised in this opposition. And I thank you for your time, and I hope that you'll take the opportunity, I request you take the opportunity to read my opposition in detail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. McLean. Are there any questions for Mr. McLean?
I have none.
Seeing none, Paul Beasley. Mr. Beasley. Tanisha Longley. Nisha Longley. Herman Taylor. Herman Taylor. Yolanda Taylor.
He's trying to talk, but he.
Mr. Taylor, you're muted. Mr. Taylor, we can't hear you. And I can't hear Mr. Taylor. Is he in? Mr. Taylor, we see you, but we can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You have 3 minutes.
All right. I wanted to pick up on what my friend Mendelson McLean said. And I want to say I'm not opposed to developing the area, but the density seems to be substantially beyond what the county master plan contemplated. 300 units is not gradual, context-sensitive growth. It's a fundamental transformation of this entire site, and it wasn't anticipated by that plan. And as Mendelson pointed out, the benefits that are being offered are baseline. These are things that would have to happen in any event, even under the current zoning plan that we currently have. And then the last point I just want to make is, if you think about the whole idea of creating a rezoned area, it doesn't say here that under the new zoning, you can't add multiple types of units. Here the question is the volume. It's not the type of units, it's the volume. We're fine with a diverse type of units, but the volume that we're talking about here will put a real strain on our infrastructure, and there's really no new benefits being offered here other than what would be required under the existing zoning. So that's my concern here, and I think we would need a whole different look at this under a much smaller unit number of properties being built if we were going to do this.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor, is your wife, Yolanda, available?
She is, but she asked me to speak on her behalf as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no other speakers, is there a motion? Is there a motion to recommend approval? No, that's good. Not in this case. Okay.
Mr. Chair, after consideration of the staff report, the testimony, and also in preparation for today, I did read all the opposition, and I'm glad and sensitive to their concerns. However, I believe that we should adopt the findings of staff as well as the associated conditions for ZMA 2024-004 and include, subject to the conditions in the staff report as modified by applicant's exhibit number 1, and send our recommendation to the staff council.
Consent as a staff report.
It's been properly moved in second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
How about aye?
Commissioner Okoye, and I vote aye as well. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is item 7, Community Planning Division, Town Riverdale Park Legacy Mixed Use Town Center Design Review Denomination. We will hear from Mr. Sands.
Chairman, members of the
Hold it down. There you go.
members of the planning board, for the record, this is Dan Sams with the Community Planning Division, presenting the Town of Riverdale Parks nominees to the Riverdale Park Legacy Mixed Use Town Center Design Review Committee.
We'll see you a little bit.
Chairman, would you like me to read the memorandum into the record, or I could read off the nominees?
No, if you can read the memorandum.
The memorandum. The recommendation from the staff is that the planning board confirm the nominations for 2-year terms. In 2004, the district council adopted a zoning map amendment, rezoning portions of the town of Riverdale Park to the Mixed Use Town Center, or MUTC zone. The Riverdale Park Mixed Use Town Center zone comprised the commercial areas on US 1, which is Baltimore Avenue, and the town's historic commercial core along Rhode Island Avenue around the MARC station. The latter was enlarged in 2012 by district council approval of A-118, rezoning approximately 35.71 acres of land that is now Riverdale Park Station, or sometimes known as the Cafritz property. The 2004 approved Town of Riverdale Park Mixed Use Town Center Zone Development Plan established standards and guidelines to implement the MUTC zone. On November 29th, 2021, the District Council approved CR-136-2021, the countywide map amendment, which reclassified the MUTC Mixed Use Town Center Zone as the LMUTC, or Legacy Mixed Use Center Zone. The zoning ordinance that went into effect April 1st, 2022, provides that procedures established in Section 273310 for the establishment and membership of the LMUTC design review committees supersede any procedures included in any mixed-use town center development plan and previous zoning ordinance. The new procedures state that each LMUTC zone shall include a local design review committee advisory to the planning board to review applications and make recommendations to the decision-making body, and that the committee shall consist of 7 members. The LMUTC design review committees for the Brentwood, Mount Rainier, and Riverdale Park LMUTC zones shall be nominated by the respective legislative bodies of each municipal corporation and be confirmed by the planning board. The term of service for the LMUTC design review committee members shall be 2 years. Committee members may serve up to an additional 6 months while their successor is nominated and confirmed. A minimum of 1 serving member on each LMUTC design review committee shall be a design professional or demonstrate experience in the field of architecture, engineering, historic preservation, or planning. Within the LMUTC zone, the LMUTC design review committees review and comment to the appropriate decision-making body or official on building permits, use and occupancy permits, sign permits, special permits, and other pertinent application types found in the former mixed-use town center zone, and any other application previously delegated to the local design review committees for review and comment by the district council. On October 27, 2025, via resolution 2025-R-15, the Riverdale Park Town Council approved the following committee nominations: Kayla Anthony, with a demonstrated experience in planning; Michael Arnold, with a demonstrated experience in architecture; Ryan Shelton; Casey Rutledge, with a demonstrated experience in architecture; James Schmitz, Richard Smith, and Alan K. Thompson. And the resumes and biographies of the nominees are attached for the board's review. This
Any questions for Mr. Sand?
presentation.
No, I don't have any questions, Chair.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the staff recommendations and recommend to the planning board that we adopt or appoint the individuals listed in the staff report.
I second that. It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye,
Vote aye.
and I vote aye as well. Great job, Mr. Sand. That concludes all items on today's agenda. I want to thank the staff and others for coming up. It's now 12:28. Meeting is now adjourned.